Okay. So last week we read or like tried to read the Manasan and Parel sort of report. This is from the Philippine Institute of Development Studies. And then you can also go to the PID's website as well. They have like newer data. But the idea here is that fiscal incentives, or basically taxes or tax breaks, can help businesses or can help a sort of city or municipality or even a region create more businesses. So basically, the idea here is that these different taxes, that are within the sin tax reform of 2012, the goal is to create more businesses, but the review says that the two bills, we have the Senate Bill 987 and the Senate Bill 35. They are obviously kanang not perfect and needs to be kanang further detailed. So ang key word here is both bills focus on, or the key idea, both bills focus on investment promotion, which is a positive development. However, there's a need for a credible signal to prospective investors as to the type of foreign investment the country desires to attract. So such investment, blah, blah, blah. So it's just not the fact that you want to promote investment. You need to be basically kind of more specific. And then ang ending here is both bills provide significant improvements to current fiscal incentive regime in the country. By simplifying the provision of administration of fiscal incentives, government revenues can be boosted without compromising the level of investments in the country. So basically, kutika mga bills, there's a lot of different like terms, a lot of like different percentages. Now, especially for us who are not in the business world or in the business industry, it seems like a lot of kanang jargon. As our goal for today is just to simplify and like this define what are these types of kanang taxes, and then what do you call this? The impact of taxes is very what's the best complicated to sort of quantify. There are some studies now, like the one I showed you earlier, that said now if you reduce taxes in this area, there is a high chance that more businesses will start to pop up. Like more people will be willing to start their own business if they have lesser capital to start a business with, or like lesser costs to start a business with. So I was gonna talk about the simple process of like creating your business. I had a list here of procedures for Nawa. I don't know. It was supposed to be here in the Google Classroom. This is from a different class. I can't find it anymore. Anyway, so just starting a small business on your own, you need the following procedures here. So you need to apply sa BIR, number one. Filled out application forms. Applications are here. You need to go to the DTI. You need to get your DTI certificate or your, this is Department of, I forget, DTI Philippines. Department of Trade and Industry, or you can get a SEC registration form, that's SEC. So SEC Philippines means Securities and Exchange Commission na document form. And article of incorporation with secretary's certificate, the secretary of the company. Then financial documents such as but not limited to sales journal, certificate of gross. These are all kanang different documents from, for example, if you're in a mall, you need the certificate of gross, percentage of returns, annual income tax return, comparative financial statement of the preceding year. Oh, excuse me. And then barangay clearance, certificate of holdings if you're a lessor or a leaser, real estate property tax clearance if you own the business, and contracts of lease if you're renting or like I guess you're in a renting situation. I'm not super sure how that happens. Next, payment. So you need to pay the taxes so your business will be officially registered. Then verification and release. So complete all the requirements. You need to get, if you have employees, the CTC here is, forget what are these things. CTC. Community tax certificate. I'm so Sadula. Sanitary permit, fire inspection. This is for I think kanang those who are operating in offices that are what they call this in multi-story situations in a building. Occupational permit, the CC enroll certificate, and the joint expansion report, etc. So just all of these, that's over 3 steps. It might take you or a business owner a few weeks to several months. If someone's helping them, maybe even a few days if they have a connection inside the DTI. But it gets even more complicated if you have employees. From my contact, they said na if you have less than 5, you don't need to apply for permits from the DOLE, the Department of Labor and Employment. But if you have more than 5, then you have to fill out those forms as well. So the idea is the employees are protected, the business protected. So the larger the company, the more sort of documents you need to file. So with these in mind, this is like a lot of costs, a lot of paperwork, and um, if you have sort of a way, if you're the business owner and you have a way to reduce costs, then you might be more willing to open up a business in that specific area. So our document here, just very simply, says that if you provide these fiscal incentives, it might encourage business owners to go to that location. So these fiscal incentives are on a nationwide scale. Tax income holidays, investment allowance and tax credits, CITs, accelerated depreciation. I'm not even going to touch that because that sounds very complicated, etc., etc. So these fiscal incentives are not targeted for small businesses. This is for foreign investors. So foreign companies who want to set up a business here in the Philippines. So as far as I can tell, let me close this. This is what the see, Senate Bill 987 and Bill 35, Senate Bill 35 is trying to target. So just going over this again, Senate Bill 987 proposes the consolidation of all investing promoting agencies or IPIs into one centralized agency. So to simplify application and what they call this, regulations with kanang investment. So the BOI and the Philippine Economic Zone Authority will be merged, renamed, and reorganized as the PIPA. So moreover, enterprises or domestic enterprises, export and or domestic enterprises located in the 30 poorest provinces. So again, highlighting that need not to develop the poorest areas, are qualified to register with PIPA, the new sort of group, the Philippine Investment Promotion Administration. And they will provide the following incentives to those who are located in the 30 poorest provinces. So reduce CIT, net operating loss carryover, exemption, basically lesser taxes. Registered domestic enterprises. This is the first one was for export enterprises. So companies that export, whether they be, it doesn't say whether they're local or kanang foreign-owned companies, but basta their business is they're exporting products outside of the Philippines. So reduced tax rates, net operating loss carryover. So all of these are different sort of business terms. Now, I don't think we should focus on so much, but the idea that specific provinces get a tax break might be able to, if the national government allows this kind of or promotes this kind of investment or fiscal incentive, very likely na it will make it easier for businesses to come out in those 30 poorest provinces. So that's basically as simple as I can explain it. And what we're going to sort of discuss now, I had like slides for this. I'm very sorry, and I'll make a new slide in the canvas. What I'm hoping is that we can sort of go through the different taxes today, the different types of taxes, the CIT and the ITH, specifically for the Philippines, and see how they work, even from a more kanang general perspective. So what is corporate income tax? I'm hoping like you can enlighten us, like who is it for? Income tax holidays, who is it for? How does it work? And the other two are, let's see, who's missing today? Let's see, let me close this. I'll download this for my own reference later. Okay, we got just the three of us. So, okay, get general on the discussion. We have Silfavan. We have,
Yes, sir.
sorry, I can't find Mary's last name. What's your last name, Mary Syra?
Recamada, sir.
Rekamada. Okay, so Rekamada, you are assigned to USAID, the Urban Development Action Grant, which is basically the same, just targeting the poorest areas and like reducing taxes there. And see Ma'am Tabalok, which is on enterprise zones. So Nelson, are you okay to go first?
Yes, sir.
Sige, go
Okay, sir.
ahead lang. Okay, right? Hmm.
I'll just share my PowerPoint, sir.
Yeah, share lang PowerPoint, and then okay if it's kanang general lang na discussion. Just anything to help us kanang clarify what is CIT will be very helpful.
Okay, sir.
Mhm. Kalimot ko himog assignment na submission ani. I'll just make it now.
Would like to know, sir, if my presentation is visible on your screen.
Loading pa. Just give it a few seconds siguro.
How about this, sir?
Mula pa gyapon. Lang, I'll make a submission box, like a report for.
Oh. How about that, sir?
Ana, yes.
Okay. Actually, I prepared some sir, a brief lang pud nga PowerPoint. To start, sir, kanang I will just discuss first with regard for kanang before sa kanang corporation tax or CIT. I will outline first the name corporation according to Batasang Pambansa Corporation Code of the Philippines. Corporation defined as siya, artificial being created by the law or having the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidents to its existence. And
Nelson,
then,
sorry.
okay.
Pwede i-full screen siya? Kanang
Okay, sir.
presentation mode?
How about that, sir?
Okay, yeah. Better.
Okay, sir. So
Muna siya.
So considered as corporation, for the purpose of this topic, there are kining as shown here in the one screen. These are the considered as corporations as joint stock companies. Muna siyang a business entity in which share of the company's stock can be both and sold by the stakeholder. And then the joint ventures, muna siya the business entity created by two or more parties, generally characterized by shared ownership, shared returns and risk, and shared governance. And the third one is a joint accounts, which is a bank account that has been opened by two or more individuals or entities. And then the fourth one is the partnerships, except the what they call this, the GP, a GPP, or also known as General Professional Partnership, mo ni siya ang contract whereby two or more persons bind themselves to contribute money, property, or industry to a common fund with the intention of dividing the profits among themselves. And then the fifth one is the insurance company. This is the company that creates insurance product to take on risk in return for the payment of the premiums. And then the third one is the association. This is the corporation, other than a public corporation. And then based from sa ako ang research, according to my reference book uh, entitled Partnership and Corporation Accounting by Valencia, a corporation has many classes at is classified based on its specific type such as under the corporate code as the nationality, mo ni siya nationality, purpose, extent of membership, number, person, and legal rights. Then as per BP number 968, mo ni siya ang kining ang corporation is classified as stock corporation or non-stock corporation. Mo ni ang kanang stock corporation is this mo ni siyang one whose ownership is divided into units called share and capital. One example of this is the Ayala Corporation. And then this non-stock corporation, uh, this is not organized for profit. For example, this is Habitat for Humanity. And then I will just skip to nationality since since this topic will be more focusing on this one man kining about the nationality. So I'll proceed to the purpose. Uh, uh, corporation as to purpose man ni siya ang kaning mga government corporation nga giformed by the government either for governmental function or proprietary function. And then the government owned and controlled corporation, these are the corporations primarily intended for profits but owned or controlled by the state. One example of this is National Power Corporation. And then the extent membership, these are the open corporation and then the closed corporation. Kini siyang open corporation, the difference between the open corporation is convention. The ownership of the open corporation is widely held by many investors. Then an open corporation is either listed or over the counter. And then the closed corporation man is one whose ownership is limited to few person, and then its shares are not available for purchase by the public. Example for this is kuan kining Holian Development. I think it's not familiar. And then kini familiar na kining corporate sold and then corporate aggregate. Mo ni siya ang kining corporate sold, mo ni siya consist only one corporator, example of which is one organized by the archbishop or priest. And then the corporate aggregate consists one or more corporation or member.
Nelson, sorry. Mag-freeze ko to at page 4. Atura.
Okay, kini. Si sir. And
Sakto
then
yun na page? Okay.
kini as to legal rights,
Mm.
corporation considered as de jure corporation and de facto corporation. This de jure corporation actually is one of the that exist in fact and in law. It has complied with all legal requirements and actually operates as a corporation. And then this de facto corporation, mo ni siya is one that exists in fact and not in law. Dili siya law, but not in law. It actually operates as an corporation, but it doesn't exist in law because of non-compliance with some legal requirements. And then the third one. So for taxation purposes, I will be highlighting the class of corporation. This as to the nationality, as I mentioned lately, in which include the domestic corporation, the foreign corporation, and the multinational corporations. In this view, wherein this corporation income tax are mostly come into. Then now, when we say domestic corporation, these are the kanang organization form or organized using our prime laws, but foreign corporation, these are formed or organized or existing other than our Philippine law. So the reason about the tax reform, reducing the tax rate is part of kanang fiscal policy of the government. So meaning fiscal policy is the use of government spending or the revenue collection and expenditure kanang bali to influence our country economy. And then fiscal policy and taxation are connected, although one siya kanang separate topic in other disciplines. But if we connect sa kanang fiscal policy when it comes to taxation, it talks about the government spending. And then government spending we're in to create a project. the government should create a project in order like to improve our economy, and how does the government can make a project or can improve our economy when it comes to spending. So the funds that came from it is through the taxes, because as we all know that tax is the lifeblood of the government in order to ask for to pursue a lot of projects to improve our economy or living of each and every people.
Hmm. Sige, next.
So a bit background and updates about the Philippines taxation, sir. Under the former administration of uh, President Duterte, we have this what we called as kining CTRP, or gitawag na sila Comprehensive Tax Reform Program. And then the objective of it is to kanang improve or refine our taxation system. There are many packages under CTRP as of today. There are actually two packages. These are the one kining RA 10963, or what we know as train law, which became effective in year 2018. And then in the second package is the kining RA 11354, or create law. So actually this kining create law was kuha ni siya gisigned ni siya last March 2021, just fairly recently. Create stands for as Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentive for Enterprises Act. And then there is a word recovery, which thereby means one of the objectives of the create is the business to kanang recover siya from the COVID-19 pandemic. Aside from create law, we have this also known as Bayanihan Law, Act 1 and 2, just the same goals of Bayanihan Act in order to recover from the businesses. And then kining Bayanihan Act, also known as Bayanihan to Heal, it is officially designated as Republic Act number 114969. It is a law here in the Philippines, enacted in March 2020, which is kanang ang granting sa ato ang president nga naa siya additional authority to combat the COVID-19 pandemic in Philippines. So this word actually came from the Tagalog word, which is kuan siya kanang communal act. So taxation and corporation actually, sir, is as I said, the kaning domestic kini katong tulo ka buok: domestic, resident, foreign, and non-resident foreign corporation. This is very important to know, since these three, because this is where we kanang depend the taxable here in the Philippines. If you are actually, ako lang i-explain lang kanang, if you are resident foreign, if you are domestic corporation, your income here in the Philippines and abroad are taxable here in the Philippines. Then if you are a kanang resident foreign corporation, actually ang imuhang income earned in the Philippines taxable in Philippines, but income earned in abroad are not taxable in Philippines. So while if you are non-resident corporation, or income earned in Philippines taxable in Philippines, but ang income earned in abroad are not taxable in the Philippines. Muna siya kining domestic corporation, these are na kaning mga corporation created and organized under the Philippine laws. The Philippine laws that relate to corporations. We have this corporate code in the Philippines. This corporation has complied requirements such as kining Security and Exchange Commission, or SEC, and if listed, they are complied to the requirements of Philippine Stock Exchange. One of the example of this, they are example as aning corporate, kaning domestic corporate is the BDO, BPI, PLDT, Globe, etc., or Jollibee or San Miguel. So the large corporation that we are kanang mga familiar diri sa Philippines. So for example, Jollibee have stores in Philippines. They have also kanang na sila store sa Philippines, but naapod sila store sa abroad. So their stores here in the Philippines, kining ang ilang store sa Philippines kay incomeable, ang income nila is taxable in the Philippines, but their stores abroad, their income are also kuan siya kanang taxable gyapon sa Philippines, even nasa sa kanang outside of the Philippines city, or kanang city, I mean the outside of the city boundaries, Philippines boundaries. And then the resident foreign corporation, mo ni siyang kining mga corporation created and organized under kining the foreign laws. These are engaged in businesses in the Philippines. For example of this, the McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Toyota, Nestle. Like for example, kining Toyota, ang headquarter niya dito is in the Japan, but Toyota have a lot of branches around the world, as we all know. Then now the Toyota Philippines, their income is taxable in Philippines but not in abroad. They will pay their tax in their respective country where they are located. So ang kining non-residents, sorry, kining non-residents foreign corporation, these are the corporation nga kanang created and organized under the foreign laws, but they are not engaged. They are not engaged in the business in the Philippines. Kining foreign corporation is engaged in Philippines but not residents in foreign. I say, but not residents foreign is not engaged in the Philippines. Example for this is kuan kaning mga Bank of Central Asia. It's not familiar actually, dili kani na to familiar in the Philippines because it has no branch in the Philippines, di ba? But it's actually the largest, muna siya pinaka dako nga private owned bank in the Indonesia. And then the question is, why is it the bank has been earning in the Philippines even though kanang they are not in the Philippines? Then kining the non-residents foreign corporation are earning ni sila sa Philippines through passive income such as kining mga interest, dividends, rents, etc. For example, Toyota Philippines kining borrowed a bank loan in the Bank Central Asia, which is a foreign law. Then Bank Central Asia will earning interest income from Toyota Philippines. That is where there is income derived in the Philippines. To distinguish kanang kan lang kung i-distinguish more the residents foreign and the non-residents to distinguish between the two. If there are no branch or office in the Philippines, that is not non-residents foreign corporation. If there is branch in the Philippines, that is the residents foreign corporation. Then these three class of corporation will going to pay, bayad ni sila og kanang types of income tax. Actually there are three type of income tax that they will going to pay, such as basic income tax, the final withholding tax, in the capital gain tax. Actually, I will not kuha na lang mo go deeper since it's very technical. So I just give example na
Mm.
lang for the income tax. Kini lang basic income tax. Kining basic income tax, we have this what we call as regular corporate income tax, which is what we know that CIT. In train law, actually it has 30% under the create law. And then sorry, in train law na siya 30%, then under sa create law na siya 25%. It is now reduced except you are a domestic corporation. Then salbi ang
Mm.
imong net taxable income doesn't exceed to 5 million and your total asset do not exceed to 1 million, then if you are when you are within that threshold, and if you are satisfied both, then your net taxable income will be 25% instead of 25%.
Okay, 25% instead of 30%.
No,
Oh.
20% instead of 25%. In create law,
20. Okay, okay, sorry.
if you satisfied the 5 million and the 1 million, dapat di siya mo-exceed ana. So to proceed,
Sige.
the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentive for Enterprise, this also known as CREATE Act, was actually passed into law in March 26. Then effective na siya within April 11, 2023. Ano, if di exceed na, dili na siya kuhan, di na siya effective, di na siya applied. So it is the second package of Comprehensive Tax Reform Program or CTRP that reduces corporate income tax, reduce niya ang income tax rates. For example, katungkuan ng the basic income tax. Then it provides other kining tax relief measure that will help businesses, particularly those organized as corporation, including one-person corporation, then recover from the effects because of effects of this pandemic, as well as the measure that while will rationalize the grant of fiscal incentive to the targeted investors. And then this create law is kuan siya estimated to provide private enterprise more than 1 trillion pesos worth of tax relief over the next 10 years. So kining the second one is the MCME or micro, small, and medium enterprise will be the biggest beneficiaries of create law through the grant of the largest ever corporate income tax rate reduction in the country from 30% to 20%. Then this large corporation also enjoy immediate reduction in the corporate income tax rate from 30 to 25%. Yung mga larger na siya. Then ang kining create law also provides other forms of tax relief which are part of the package of economic recovery measures implemented by the government to address the varying needs and the concerns of the business sectors brought about by the ongoing kining wala I think wala naman siguro COVID-19 pandemic. Then create law also mo provide ni siya for a generous and flexible tax incentive system that is performance based, time bound, targeted and transparent. So kini mo ni siya ang corporate income tax reduction and other pandemic related tax under create mo ni siya kining as stated diri nga before ang kining domestic MSC corporation with taxable income sa una kay 30% and then under the create law nahimo na siya 20% and then kining foreign corporation before 30 and then now kay 25% na reduce na ang katong before nga mga tax nga gikan sa train law kay so far kay train law may giusab aning create law and then minimum corporate income tax from 2% nahimo na siya 1%, then non-profit and proprietary educational institution and hospital from 10% nagihimo na siya 1%.
Dako
So,
kayo.
dako kayo kay since it is more focusing man sa health man nato sir, di ba? Kay tungod ning
Mm.
pandemic. So, I think grabe jud kaayo ang ilahang focus gud ani sa in terms sa na impact sa kining COVID-19. So that's why from 10% nahimo na siya 1%. And then kining foreign source dividends received by domestic corporation from 15% nahimo na siya exempt na siya sa subject to reinvestment of earnings in the Philippines. And then also the improper accumulated tax earning from 10% and it has been repealed.
Mm.
Then kini mga foreign mo ni siya mga example ni siya kining VAT na himong 12 na himo na exempted. Kini self importation of all prescription from drugs na exempted na instead of 12%. And then kining sales of importation from vaccine from 2% na himo na exempted na siya. Then the e-books na exempted. Then sales and importation of drugs and cancer na himo na exempted na siya. Then corporate income tax incentive reform reason kining the reason why corporate income tax and incentive system has been reformed to lower the to lower the corporate income tax CIT rate and make regionally competitive. Kini siya kini siyang to lower the corporate income tax CIT rates and make it regional competitive. Actually mo ni siyang iyahang graph. Kining it shows that ang kining graph based from it shows that the Philippines has the highest tax rate of 30% in the entire Asia. So
Mm.
Singapore has 17% of the comparative corporate income tax rate. This would mean nga ang corporate businesses in the Philippines are very heavy or they saw it hard to pay the taxes although it is mandatory but it will not save di siya mo save or investment because of the higher tax rate. That's why
Mm.
President Duterte make a reform through create law and able to reduce the tax rate in the Philippines as the highest tax rate in Asian nation. So kini siya so that the increase the spending not only the government but even to the consumer as well. Then
Mm.
and lower the corporate income tax rate to make it regionally competitive and bring back jobs through the comprehensive income tax. Through the corporate income tax incentive reform acceleration. So
Mm.
and by 2029, the country is expecting so the next actually kini in 2029 actually our country is expecting to have a tax rate should be increased to 20%. It's total reduction of tax rate. This decreasing of tax rate is the tax incentives because unsa ni siya through the minimal di ka siya ingon what not really that minimal to the decreasing of the tax rate. Decreasing of taxes can increase the profit of the business so the incentive system is being improved to assure or to innovate when it comes to research and development or innovate products and services, then to improve the position of our country in global value chains and to participate in more high value activities. That's why the government is now kanang nag-implement na og tax reform, and this is and I believe it is kanang already implemented. That's why they have to improve the condition of all business and the Filipino people. And then kining the second one is to grant incentives more judiciously to reduce fiscal cost among to uh, for 441 billion pesos or 2.8% of GDP in 2017. So Philippines kining billion in forgone or do without revenue in 2007 from tax incentives, many of which are kanang nakita ani nila kay unnecessary incentives daw. Firms with no incentive, mga firms nga with no incentives pay the regular rate of 30% in net taxable income. Then almost all of the 19 kining SMEs or small or mid-sized enterprise pay the regular 30% tax rate. Then kining firms with incentives pay between 6% and 13% effective tax. I think lawom na kaayo. Then every pesos granted as tax incentive, actually this is the peso of the budget that could have been spent for infrastructure, education, health, and social protection that will be benefited and not only a few. Then the third
Mm.
one is mo na nakita to make tax incentives performance based. Before man good kay before sa the passing of create law, it was thought that kanang mga incentives kuno daw are not dili siya performance based, such as kanang no monitoring, wala kayo monitoring sa firm performance on its commitment niya to
Mm.
increase sa export, kini mo create og jobs or raise productivities. And then to be able that tax incentives become performance based, ang kining create law offers a more nag-offer siya more on competitive incentives menu that rewards performance with more incentives. And in kining ikaupat, kining to make tax incentives targeted to priority industries through the BOI, or what we known as Board of Investment. Nag-insure sila og more targeted list covering activities with kanang mga significant positive externalities that really matter for the future. And kini siya kining sa karon kay only the president can propose activities not in the CIPP, or what we known as Strategic Investment Priority Plan, that may be granted more tax incentives. So din ay kalima kining to make tax incentives targeted to priority areas, such as kanang mo provide na kanang moratorium on the proclamation of new economic zones in Metro Manila. Mo is lang one of their kuan nila kanang mga targets. All
Mm.
future eco zones will going to base on an economy wide and then cost benefit analysis to determine their viability and value added. Then to make also the tax incentives time bound, such as kining mga approved standard activities shall be kanang mahatagan siya og for kwan 5 or 7 or 10 years period, renewable if they meet the criteria. And then example for this is the income tax holiday. Muna siya katong next nga topic nga kwan. Then up
Mm.
to 3 to 4 or 6 years depending of the location, and then plus the year extension if ang investing in agribusiness or in less developed areas, or if relocating outside Metro Manila and adjacent urban areas. And then the next one kining to make tax incentive more transparent. In create law, monitoring system of the incentives are kining na-enhance na siya, including the collections of detailed information on the cost and the benefit of the incentives. Then kining isa ni tawagan nila lagi FIRB, or the Fiscal Incentive Review Board. Actually, nag-publish ni sila the names of the recipients of incentives and kanang other related information on their cost and benefit to assure nga ang public that tax incentives kay kuha na siya kanang properly used.
Mm.
And then the next one is to reduce the abuse of transfer pricing through shifting the net income tax system and enhance anti-avoidance rules. Manilahang one of the goal nila. The gross
Mm.
income taxation is shifted to net income taxation, and this can limit transfer pricing, I think. Mo limit siya sa transfer pricing abuse since it reduces the number of tax regimes. And then the nine one
Mm.
is the kaning to improve the governance in the grant of tax incentives through the Fiscal Incentives Review Board, or FIRB. There are multiple investment promotion agencies with the power to grant incentives, and the DOF, Department of Finance, has a very little to say to this, since kining FIRB will have the oversight function overall and approve all incentives, in kining Department of Secretary chairs Secretary chairs muna chairs the FIRB. And then the last actually to ensure regular and rigorous monitoring and evaluation of impact of incentives on the economy through cost benefit analysis. It was figured out that there is no regular cost benefit analysis or CBA
Mm.
had ever been conducted to determine the impact of incentives on our economy. And there has been a little to no effort to do a regular CBA or cost benefit analysis. And then kining create law or of Department of Finance, the create law of Department of Finance is undertaken for the first comprehensive CBA analysis. Mo na ilahang reason why the corporate income tax has been reformed. Then kining FIRB shall mo conduct na siya kanang mga regular monitoring and evaluation of the investment and then the investment and then investment fiscal incentives, just as using kining mga CBA or cost benefit analysis to determine their impact on the economy and whether agreed performance targets are met. I think that that's
Okay.
that's
That
all.
was very good, Nelson. So, mas
Thank you,
klaro
sir.
na gyud ayon sa ning corporate tax niya. You also went down a bit deeper pag yun. So,
Thank you, sir.
makita gyud nato na even just going through that parang naglabad akong daghan kay paperwork, daghan kay different groups, organizations. And then that's really the challenge now with economic development as the programs and economic development as the phenomena in the Philippines, that we want better kanang quality of life, better amenities, etc. Now everything has to be documented. So what do you call this? Thank you so much, Nelson.
Sir. Okay.
Before you end the slides, let's see here. Tula i-show balik sa ito, ha? Atong graph na pakita ang tax compared sa other countries, kanang slide 10. Kana. That is kanang very interesting to me kay we think of developed countries no na siguro dako kay sa taxes, but turns out nga kita man sir pinakadako og tax. Compared to China is a very developed country, 25%. Indonesia, I think we're about the same level as Indonesia. Oh, i-study lang ka na slide. Malaysia. If you look at this slide, I think the most developed countries are Singapore and China. Kanimo ban Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam. I think we're at least around the same level, but I think they're a little bit better lang. It seems like ang taxes nila is the CIT, at least ang CIT is not their main source of income. There must be getting income from somewhere else. So not their corporate income tax. But if you think about it, so what kinds, it makes you wonder a bit what kinds of taxes are present in these countries. So from pull away lang tagamay sa taxes, we'll go back to urban planning. What the role of the urban planners is to help define and identify areas na could be benefited from such kanang reforms. Na, for example, in the province of Cebu, I think we have the poorest areas are sa kanang western side sa Cebu province, if I'm not mistaken. Well, the most developed areas are here sa eastern side, like Cebu City, Mandaue, Lapu-Lapu. So how do we sort of kanang inform the regional government and the provincial government na these areas are having these issues or like not performing economically as kanang, or not could be performing better. Our role as urban planners is to identify what resources are there, and then kanang like in terms of human resources, natural resources, and then advise whoever our kanang boss is na maybe kanina area could use some incentives or tax reform, something like that. So that was very good, Nelson. Excellent. I opened a submission box here. Submit lang, and then I will give you a grade for that. So That was more than what I expected. Good. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Sige. Next, okay, we have some absences, man. Um, we'll go with the Urban Development Action Grant by a report by Resamedas. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Sige. Stop sharing lang, Nelson.
Okay, sir.
Sige.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Um, there's no atom, which is this one. Share, and then Sir Claro, sir.
It's loading. Okay, I can see Urban Development Action Grant.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I'll be reporting about Urban Development Action Grant. So, to start off, I'll define what is a grant. So, a grant is an award, usually financial, given by one entity, typical a company, foundation, or government, to an individual or a company to facilitate a goal or incentivize performance. So grants are usually gifts that do not have to be paid back under most conditions. So for my topic, I'm gonna be discussing the UDAG program in the USA. So to give a bit background of the program, so by mid 1970s, it was no longer possible to avoid the fact that the post-war building boom that created countless trucks, houses in new suburban areas was also drawing jobs and retail activity away from nearby large and small cities. So leaving them with declining population and financial resources. So for my understanding din so since katong time sa US marag uso kay tong suburbs.
Mm,
So mostly sa katong mga napuyo sa city nibalhin sa suburbs. So murag dito na na-focus ang mga retails and any commercial. So murag na ubang cities na murag na empty or na left behind ba something like that.
mm,
So during the administration of President Jimmy Carter, confronted two broad issues in devising new policies to counter these urban problems, which is number one, how to assist poor individuals and families remaining in the cities, and number two, how to reverse the loss of jobs and tax revenues in central cities.
before you go, si President Carter, what year siya? Yung administration?
Uh, Murag 19 ano to sir?
Ah,
1980 something to sir.
1980s siya.
Uh-uh.
Okay.
So what is UDAG? So the UDAG program was a real estate development program but never really targeted real estate as per Bingham. But
Mm,
as sa nag-search ko lang reading sir, as per ni Ingrid Reed, UDAG is designed to assist commercial, industrial, and housing projects that, but for the general grant, would not be built. The program was characterized by a streamlined grant-making process administered by finance and development experts. So, but for kay once eligible, ano to? A city receive a UDAG only if it presented a project devised jointly with a private sector entrepreneur that could not otherwise be accomplished without the UADAG subsidy.
mm. Lalo na improve na worth
Yes,
na sa program. Mm,
yes. So the UDAG program enacted into law as part of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1977. So 1977 to siya, sir. Gikan
okay.
natin eh. So UDAG provided a form of a government intervention to deal with perceived market imperfections in economically disadvantaged cities. So the purpose was to alleviate central city decay in the nation's most economically depressed urban areas by means of strategic use of direct capital subsidies. So a direct subsidy is a payment made by the government to a third party for which no goods or services are exchanged. So as per explained kanina sa grant, murag ka ng something that they have to give but doesn't need to be paid back. So a city could apply for a grant if it met either the program standards for distress or had a pocket of poverty. So what is a pocket of poverty? Poverty, poverty pockets are pockets of poor
Mm.
people within cities or countries. So the poverty levels of such populations and communities exceed by far the national average. So murag if kanang si tawag ani daghan og ingani sir ba like let's say informal settler area settlement murag
Kanana.
dina sila mulok og kuan.
Sa ila is kuan di sila squatters per more kanang murag kanang rundown bitaw na
Yes.
na areas like the what you see in the movie na daghang kanang crime ug kuan kay
Mm.
mga buslot na windows, empty
Mm.
lots. Ato
Yes.
kay mo tapok man ang
Yeah, pundok
mo
bitaw
tapok
siya.
ang mga poor
Uh-uh.
unfortunately. So
Yes.
dayon.
For an applicant for assistance were required to describe a concentrated urban development action program. And then another one is to take advantage of unique opportunities to attract private investment. So, well, kanang makita na sila og location for murag ilang hatagan og answer ba program or something proposal para makasud sila atong UDAG program. So the absence of private investment was seen as a key characteristic distinguishing distressed cities from more affluent suburbs. So one example of this UDAG program is the Hyatt Regency, which is located in San Antonio, Texas. So Hyatt Regency is a typical UDAG project. So Hyatt project goes to initiate a comprehensive revitalization of about 6 city blocks in the heart of San Antonio historic downtown commercial area. So in the next slide, so mo ni ang map sa San Antonio. Kani kay murag ilaha lang ning drawing, murag visual ba sa ilahang proposal.
Yeah, the
And then,
marketing.
yes. And then sa right, kay mo gini siya ang na-happen, which is, na-follow ra gid nila ang ilahang program ba. So,
Mm.
major component of the project was a riverwalk linkage, a multi-level pedestrian walkway at both the San Antonio River and street levels to connect the Alamo Plaza with the river. So, this is the San Antonio River. So, kaning sa iyahang mga kaning side dyan ni street levels na ni siya mga
Mm.
pedestrian walks niya na si bridges na mo connect sa Alamo Plaza which is this area here.
Mm.
So in the next slide kay mo ni siya murag look lang ba sa ilahang sa Hyatt Regency sir. So the Hyatt Regency is located on the banks of San Antonio River. So the lowest level of the hotel is a part of the river walk. So mo ni siya ang katong river walk nila. So providing sidewalk dining which is kani sa example sa picture, entertainment and shopping. So bali murag mahulog siya og kuan sir no kanang mixed use development ba. So
Indot siya.
yeah. So the UDAG program is no longer existing despite the fact that it was extremely popular kay murag nindot man sad gid siya na program maka-beautify gid siya sa inyong city ba. When Ronald Reagan was elected in 1980, he opposed to direct subsidy programs like UDAG and worked to have it terminated. So he was unsuccessful in ending the program, but he did manage to reduce its size. But in the budget deliberation in 1989, Congress faced the choice of funding a space station for NASA or funding UDAG. So the Congress zeroed out UDAG. So they prefer
So
the nasa
gipatay gyud siya sa politicians.
yeah, ang Congress ra gyud ni kuan nila.
Mm.
So what did UDAG accomplish? So the program awarded $4.6 billion to communities for physical redevelopment over its 12-year existence. So 12 years rin ni nagdagan ang UDAG program
Mm.
ni So it taught both the public and private sectors about public-private partnership. So cities learned that they could successfully partner with developers, and vice versa, developers learned that they could partner with cities. So lessons
Okay.
for federal policy. Kani something wala na ni sa Bingham sir, but ako lang ning na basa sa kang read ba. Ako lang
Okay.
i-insert. So
Sige, sige.
UDAG demonstrates that federal initiatives can influence the way local governments promote economic development, and the concept of providing incentives to spur localities to devise creative development projects with government contributing only a part of financial resources. And then the other is the concept of leveraging of government funds is now a key element in local economic development strategy. Something na mura ginakuan sad nato here sa Philippines ata.
Mm.
So, UDAG demonstrated how difficult it is for the federal government to allocate development funds to localities in greatest perceived need while simultaneously maintaining political support for the program. So, something katong nahitabo sa Congress na murag gi-zeroed out siya ba? So, murag ingana gani unsaon siya
Yeah.
keep going gani, sir.
Mm.
So, that's it for UDAG. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Balik ta sa map
Okay,
before
sir.
ka mo-close katong ilang drawing.
Yeah.
So makita nato na what they call this in urban planning, specifically sa urban planning na side, we are more focused on kanang securing funds for a proposed project. Okay, there's a lot of kanang issues with getting the funds. Once nakuha ng funds, that's when urban design comes in. Okay, you have the funds to work with. Your job is to manage and design with that within that budget, so you can create something. So urban planning aside, we're talking to, for example, as urban planner, you might be a group, you might be an NGO or something similar. Na maglobby ka na we need funds for this project. You might work with kanang private companies, even companies from abroad, to create this proposal. And then even though we don't have something like UDAG here in the Philippines, we have those um, tax incentives, we have our local government units, and whatever ato ang mga what they call this programs I'm not very familiar with kay I okay ni agi sa ko. If nato si Sir Eli diri, we actually have here in Cebu a corporation with the Dutch embassy to create more bicycle lanes or kanang pedestrian friendly na projects. Ang ilaha lang is they want to ask for the design, the proposal before they release the money. So these kinds of groups are existing. It's just there's so many and so small now you don't feel it so much at least scanning today. So ang goal is that all these different groups would come together and like we would have one big kanang plan for example for Cebu or maybe in your local area there are already small groups. The goal is just to coordinate them and then it's just really lisod to coordinate. It's so hard to coordinate. Even magani sa school lang, coordinating classes and events is already difficult. How much more up to gid mo sa actual world na everyone has their own needs. Everyone's very busy. Na ilahi isa na target, etc. So that's really the barrier to kanang urban development is that a lot of coordination has to happen and everyone needs to know what their role is. So thank you for that. But if the US could do it sa 1970s, maybe we can do it pod sa Philippines karon na 2023 na.
All good, sir.
Okay. Very good. Ang kuan ato lang is we need to organize ourselves. Okay. So we'll do one more. Maria, your topic is enterprise zones. We have something similar in the Philippines. I think in name we have the economic zones. I'll share a bit about that because I did a bit of kanang Googling while Mary was lecturing as well. Kaya dagan mga points I wanted to look into. Maria, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Sige, just share your slides when ready. So muna siya, while Maria is getting ready, on the topic of like securing funds, we need to be aware of what are the different systems in place so we can take advantage of them. And that's really the challenge, knowing what's already in place. Okay? If you are in the academe like me, you're more focused sa academic side na your academic work na you don't have time to research into the other things. And then if you're in the you're practicing, you're a teacher, you're a actual like you're a contractor, designer, it's extra work now for you. So that's also the challenge. Anyway, go ahead, Maria.
Makita na ang slide, sir.
Yep, makita na.
Um, so, enterprise zones. So, basically, as stated ganina, si Ronald Reagan, dili siya ganan og UDAG, but he is the champion of enterprise zones. Bali, murag, dili siya introduce, but siya mo'y ga-promote sa enterprise zones sa katong president na siya. And then,
Mm,
um, the zoning concept was introduced to America from England by aning a book ni Stuart Butler, Enterprise Zones, The Green Lining, The Inner City in 1981. And it was introduced into American politics by Jack Kemp. He is a U.S. representative who was the Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development from 1989 to 1993. In the 1980s, more than 30 bills was introduced. 30 bills about enterprise zones was introduced to Congress, but wala jud siya na pass nga bill. And in 1991, sa State of the Nation address ni President George H.W. Bush, he proposed the establishment of the um, empowerment zones and enterprise communities. But
mhm,
sa um but same ra Japon ang result, murag wala gyapon gisuportahan. Not until 1993 sa Clinton-Gore administration nga gi-support na ang empowerment zones o enterprise zone concept sa federal government. Then
mm,
by between 1981 and 1993, um ang EZs and ECs gi kuan na siya, gi authorize na siya, and 40 states ani nga time ni nana sila some kind of program about this, which nga naa siya duha ka buok similarities. First is ang ilang gitarget is economically distressed areas, so katong taas ang poverty level, and next is they offer special incentives and benefits to the targeted areas to spur para makakuha sila og maka-attract sila og new investment and job creation according to Dabney 1991. So, zone programs differ from one state to another, and state zone programs vary from their what incentives they give, the criteria designation, their objectives, coordination of resources, and their management styles according to Mosberger. And the zoning program, the idea of the zoning program is that cutting taxes and reducing government regulations would regenerate urban areas through the invisible hand. Invisible hand meaning katong unseen forces sa market nga iyang pasabot, like kung naay business diya mo happen, it is kanang mo gyud may tabo niya nga mo succeed jud siya. For example, um ang human mangita kag egg, so imong gi-forecast nga naay egg sa market. Ang market pod ila pong gi-forecast na ang ga-assume sila nga ang distributors mo deliver og eggs sa market daily, and ang distributors pod ila pong gi-assume nga ang farmers mo produce pod sila or mo baligya sila og market ang mobaligya sila og eggs daily
Mm.
para na ay available available stock sige sa market. So mo ni siya nga process nga mohappen jud siya although wala gi state pero mohappen jud siya without the aid of kuan merg tungod sa predictable behavior sa humans mo nang gadalagan ra sige ang system mo ni siya the invisible hand concept ni Adam Smith. So mo
Mm.
daw ni
So
siya
mas
ga
yeah.
oo murag dili daw tungod sa enterprise zone nga gadagan ang ekonomiya but tungod daw sa invisible hand.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
then,
human behavior na kailangan gyud sa ana na eggs for example. So
mm
magdagan na gyapon siya. Okay.
then, because ani nga concept kaning invisible hand concept, muna siya nakaingon nga ang economy is regenerating in the distressed areas. So, muna ni support si Ronald Reagan aning enterprise zones kay muna siya ni appeal sa iyaha kaning invisible hand concept. And in the
Mm.
80s where the perfect time for zone development. And zones are important product of four interrelated trends. First is a growing body of scholars, policy analysts, and politicians were expressing dissatisfaction with government solutions to urban decline. So, ilahang gihimo nga solution ani nga urban decline is wala sila ni support sa government and ang ilahang bali para mo redevelop ang urban community ni support sila sa free market, deregulation, and privatization.
Sige.
Mm. The courts and legislatures demonstrated a broader appreciation of the concepts of public use and public purpose in the context of urban development. The development and use of innovative financial instruments such as tax increment financing were supporting public-private partnerships. And lastly, the federal fiscal presence has lessened. So, Reagan's new federalism diminished the federal contributions to states and localities, forcing them to be more innovative. So, ang pasabot nila nga federal contributions is katong mga grants nga gi-award sa to states and to local governments each year to finance bitaw services like healthcare, education, social services, and infrastructure. So, nilasan na niya tungod atong privatization. So, Louisville, Kentucky. This city has one of the oldest enterprise zones in the United States na established siya og 1982 and it is managed by the Office of the Economic Development. Um, it is a joint the economic develop Office of the Economic Development is a joint agency of the City of Louisville and Jefferson County government. So typical gyud siya sa mga enterprise zone nga although it is authorized by the state, ang padagan niya or ang operate niya is ang urban government or ang locality. Kentucky zone legislation authorizes the use of state sales tax exemptions, real estate value assessment freezes, property tax waivers on vehicles, and building permit fee waivers and discounts to companies that hire workers living in an impoverished area or invest buildings and equipment. So bale nag-support jud sila sa kuan sa katong mga distressed workers.
Mm. Ang economic zone is still in place until today sa Louisville.
Um, wala na ko'y makita sa Louisville, sir, pero murag naara man gihapon kay pag-search nako naaman siya graph sa kuan, naaman siya map sa yang Enterprise Zone 2019 ang latest.
Okay, enterprise zone. Okay. Sige. So the same system medyo na change lang ang name gamay.
Mm. Enterprise Zone atong 1982 ang Enterprise Zone ra niya is 3.75 square miles west of the south of Louisville Central Business District. Pagka 1984 ilahang gi-expand and sa 1986 para ma-connect tong mga lugar nga medyo layo ra ilahang gi-include ang city's main airport o kaning nearby Ford Motors, chemical manufacturing region o kaning industrial park. Dayon, to maintain after the 1986 expansion, para jud ma-maintain ra gyud ang linkage, ilang gi-acquire ning University of St. Louisville campus. Then, ningon si Lambert and Combs in 2001, the EC included nearly 46 square miles and 60 census tracts, but then it is hard to, it is difficult to evaluate daw kung mao ba dyan ang impact sa zone sa development sa economy or because of other factors ba kuno.
Sige.
So muna siya ang
Mali ang map.
answer. 2019 ni siya, dili na ako makita ang katong sa pag-publish pa sa book, pero murag same ra man gihapon siya, sir. So what really is an
Sige,
enterprise
sorry.
zone? Ako na lang i-summarize, sir. These are areas in which incentives such as tax concessions are offered to encourage business investment and provide jobs for residents. So basically, enterprise zones is actually a zone that has been set up by cities and the county for a focus for development of businesses. What kinds of businesses are eligible to take advantage of those lower tax rates offered by enterprise zones? So these business are the processing business, storage, hotels, destinations, resorts, e-commerce, and other storage facilities. But dili ni siya magamit sa retail. Who determines where the enterprise zones are located? It is established through cities and it is established by cities through the county. So pareha ra ni siya atong ang state may ga establish niya pero ang ga pa-act niya is ang urban governments. Dayon like for example Louisville, Kentucky nga ang ga padagan niya is Office of the Economic Development and the City of and the Jefferson County governments, and also kaning Jackson County, Oregon nga ang gapadagan niya is ang Oregon Regional Economic Development. So ang Jacksonville ang county, ang state is ang Oregon. So in the Philippines naatay kaning na search nako ni siya sir. Additional ni kaning tourism enterprise zones.
I was about to say about that.
Dayon kuan meaning aning TEZA is Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority. This operates and manages tourist facilities from Luzon to Mindanao. So, tourism enterprise zones are integral in creating an attractive environment for tourism investors from the public and private sectors. So, bali, with BIR's classification last year that the incentives for TEZ under the Republic Act 9593 or the Tourism Act of 2009. A tourism enterprise zone is a tract of land with defined boundaries and master plan to be developed into integrated tourism area with prescribed carrying capacities to host tourism enterprises and facility services. So naa siya duha ka klase og tourism enterprise kaning private TEZ o flagship TEZ. Then muna siya iyang wala na kaya na ako ni answer.
Yeah. Ako I'll find the definitions for those for our next meeting.
Sige.
Very interesting na kuan yun ang how the fiscal incentives like create these kinds of areas na where we get funds for our urban planning projects and then where we get to design our urban design projects. Okay. Okay. Sige. So it's 4:30 man. We have about an hour left. I'll stop the recording here, Lasa, so we can get another video.